Hello and welcome to Vastry Path Connections. I'm Debra Sofia Magdalene, and today I'm delighted to be interviewing Tareth, who is from Glastonbury. So welcome, Tareth.
Thank you.
I met Tareth at the Positive Living Group in Glastonbury earlier this year when he was doing a meditation evening and manifesting the most extraordinary, beautiful sounds from using a crystal to amplify the sound. And, you know, that led me to doing more with Tareth, to doing like a weekend retreat, which was just extraordinary. And so I'm delighted that he's agreed to come and be interviewed today.
Happy to be here.
So Tareth's a teacher, a healer, a mystic, musician.
That's a lot of titles to live up to.
Tareth, can you tell us about your journey? Because, you know, your journey started really when you had a near-death experience as a child.
Yes,
so perhaps you could share what happened.
Yeah. Well, I was 5 years old, just living a normal childhood, and I got a kidney infection, so I started bleeding, and I was rushed into hospital. And in hospital, I caught rheumatic fever while I was in there, and then I was desperately ill. But the thing I remember, I don't remember that being desperately ill. I probably, you know, eliminated that part. But I suddenly was out of my body, watching myself being resuscitated. And I know lots of people have had this experience. And I have to say, because sometimes people think, what's it like? It was a beautiful experience. I was surrounded by light and sort of beings who looked sort of had a form, but were just light.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful experience. And then the next moment I was awake. That was less beautiful for a moment because you're awake again, and and back in. And it strangely enough, I didn't suddenly have lots of things happening. I was just still in the hospital bed. I gradually recovered, and but what I could do is to see colours around people. This was the staff mainly. I didn't say anything. My parents would visit every evening to see me. But when I got home, I had this incident which started a process of things coming back to me. I lived in a sort of rented council house. We had the middle floor, and the lady downstairs, who was a lovely lady called Annie, but I called her Nanny because she was like a surrogate grandmother to me. I loved her. She was out at work, but I was allowed to go and walk, sit down there in the house. And I'd come home from hospital, only been home about a week. I was in the house, my mum was busy in the kitchen. I went down and I met a man down there, and he said, "Oh, I'm Uncle Fred." I said, "Oh, nice to meet you." And he was dressed in decorator's overalls, and we had a very nice chat. He was telling me about his work. And then I went back upstairs, and my mum said, "Oh, what have you been up to?" And I said, "I've been talking to Uncle Fred." And she went very quiet. My mum was a very spiritual lady. She said, "I'm going to talk to you." I was only 6 years old, and I think it was lovely to have a mother like this. She said, "That's Nanny's brother. He died in the Great War, not the First World War." Now, he was as solid and real to you as you are to me sitting here. I had no idea he was not on this earth.
Wow.
But from that moment, I started, over many years, I've got to condense this because it could take a long time. I started remembering past times, and I could see things, but it was very gradual, very nurturing. And I had this gift that I was born into a wonderful family, mother and father. My mother was spiritual, quite psychic. My father was a fundamental atheist who believed in nothing. And that was good because it helped me on my journey in adult life, where I've had to deal with and be happy with people who don't believe anything I do, and be happy with them, because my father wasn't aggressive or difficult. He just, that's rubbish. I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
But over the years, these light beings were with me, and I gradually remembered, and I knew that I had something to do here, that I collected to do here. But when I was about 12 or 13, because they used to speak to me sometimes, it was like a voice, real voice. Not often, I don't hear voices all the time. They said, "We're going to leave you for a little while." And that was okay. A bit sad because I've been used to it. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't some kind of little saint. I went to school, I was naughty, I played all the naughty games that everyone else does as a little boy, and got into trouble occasionally. But I had friends and things, just did normal things. But they left me And I thought a little while, but they didn't come back until I was 18. And I found out later that it was essential for me to have that teenage part without any of this, just grow up, be human, and learn. And when they came back, to cut a long story short, I still lived a human life, but I started to know that I really was here to do this work and bring sort of healing and teach about people about the light within, and that I had these gifts. But they were also present as a child, and my mum was wonderful about it, because this perfumed oil would sometimes be on my body, and she would say, it's a beautiful gift, but don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about it at school. Of course, I disobeyed her and got into slight trouble because it was a church school. And I got sent to the headmaster for disagreeing once or twice. But I learned not to speak about it. And when I was 18, it started to grow, and over the years, everything came back to me. Remembered the past, remembered what I was here for, and eventually I did work. I worked in offices and things. I had to earn some money, and then eventually I decided I have to start doing it. So I just started doing it, and it gradually built up, and here I am, still doing it.
So I just want to go back to the perfumed oil. How old were you when you started to manifest this perfumed oil?
Well, it appeared spontaneously a few times, even when I was about 6, 7 or 8 years old, but only when I was with my mum. It never happened any other time, but I knew it was okay. And she was so awake, and she must have been there for that reason. She said, this is a gift, but don't worry about it now. It's there just to show you. And it only happened occasionally. But when I got older, I had meditations every day. I was visited. I was talking, and one of the things when I'll say this now because I always say it to groups, I remembered that I had agreed to use this gift in this time for 2 reasons. One, in history, we've got this history in all beliefs of miracles, and I don't use the word miracle that much because I think it's too biblical. But the brief was this: you do this. You show it to people for 2 reasons: to open their heart to the fact that there is a spiritual world they're not alone. And the other thing is, do not turn this into a doctrine, a cult. Don't be a guru, because that's not how it should be done. Yeah. And I never have. I've been asked many times as I grew up. Organisations even wanted to open an ashram, and I would go out and manifest every day, and they promised me lots of money. Yeah. And I said no, because that's not. In our society, we have the Christian tradition. Jesus was a beautiful person with a group of people who showed people the light inside them. He did not want to start a church. Exactly. I know that. Yeah. And I say this with reverence. I respect people's belief, but I know that that's not what he wanted. And I do it for that reason, and I do it occasionally. Most of my workshops and teaching, I don't manifest all the time, because I don't want people to come for that. But I've got lots of sounds that I've manifested over the years as well, so we can talk about that some other time. Yeah. During the time we got together.
Yeah. And so, like, when you had this near-death experience and you saw these like luminous beings, do you know who they were?
Well, I called later on. I knew they were part of my soul family, because what some people would call angels. I don't mind the word angels, but the one thing I know is that they haven't just appeared from nowhere. They have evolved to that stage, like everyone is. But you can still incarnate back in a body. You don't have to. You can be both, and they're just part of my soul family who help me make the link between this side and the spiritual dimensions. I can't do it totally alone.
Yeah. So when you say you can be both, is it like, you've progressed through Earth School, if you will?
Yeah. Or even other planets.
Yeah, worked your way up, and then you become an angel. But then you
can elect to come back, because that's part of being here. That's part of being part of the society, not just a shimmering being who speaks to people from another world.
Yeah, because we hear that term, don't we? You're an Earth angel.
I believe everyone on this planet, and all planets, are Earth angels.
Yeah.
The one thing I believe is this: no matter what level people have evolved to, there is an equality between everybody.
Yeah.
That's because to me that's what the round table means. It's not a table full of knights. It's the symbol of a circle of eternity where everyone's equal, even if they've only just begun.
I love that because I think there's too many people now that see themselves as like special, or they've had that programmed into them, or you've got you're special, and then that's a way of separating rather than unifying.
I think it does separate. You know, you don't, even if someone's got gifts different to someone else, doesn't make them above them or below them. It just makes somebody, you share it with other people, which is what I try to do, because they've got this light inside them too. Yeah. That's the whole point of spiritual work, to get people to grow and be themselves, you know, shine out.
So do you think that we're all from the angelic realm?
Well, in one way, I think so. Whatever the angelic realm is, life is from all creation. Different people might have different levels of understanding because of things they're doing, but we're all from a divine loving creation, which isn't a person. I don't believe in a God who sits up there and doing it all, but people have to accept where they are, but not just accept it, say, where else am I from? What else have I got in me? And not because they're going to save the world, but just for their own personal connection, and feel this connection and be more. Because I think even education to some extent doesn't allow individuality.
No.
You know,
getting people to conform.
Yeah, it is. Well, I found that at school. I was a bit difficult at school because I found it hard to conform, and eventually had to my mum talked to me as well. I had to learn to come back a bit, because I would question things that you're not supposed to question.
No.
And they didn't like it.
No. They don't like independent thought.
Well, especially when the religious teaching, we only had religious teaching once a week, but I would question it sometimes. And the reaction was, I was sent to the headmaster.
Yeah.
No discussion, no debate. I hope that doesn't happen anymore. I hope it's more flexible these days. I don't know.
I think it depends on the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you think we choose to reincarnate into the physical form?
To be of help. It's a family to me. I see everybody as part of my family. Got the blood family, but we're a family. And if you think you can help certain people, why wouldn't you want to do it? You know, being with people doing it, not a sort of ethereal voice. Because even I call these beings the elders as a group, because they're, you know, they look like the elders of my family, but they don't get me wrong. They didn't make everything easy for me. And they didn't sort of organise everything. I had to work and believe in what I did and keep on doing it, even with the setbacks. They didn't say, oh, and if I said, I'm going to prove that you're real, I'm going to stand in front of that train as it speeds down the track, they'd let me get run over. That's my choice. Why should they save me? Yeah. I've made a choice. So they're not there to do that. But I think you can incarnate to be of help on where it's needed, not from some ethereal level all the time, or connect people back to that higher level, which is inside them.
So what happens when we die and leave our physical body?
Well, when we die, we are looked after, you know, because our consciousness doesn't die. Sometimes there is quite a lot of healing needed, not with everybody, but especially for people who have. It's not so much just most people, but I mean, you know, if you take an example, if I thought back in history when people were indoctrinated with hell, fire, and all that kind of thing, sometimes after they died, there would be fear for a bit, but they're not left in that. They're immediately given healing. That's why I believe when I send out healing, which I do every day in my meditation, I also include people who have passed over recently, in case they need it. But we are conscious, and we are conscious of, it's a very complicated thing to explain, but we're conscious of who we were here, but we're also conscious that we're not just that person. We're more multi-dimensional, and there's help around, always. Yeah. But there's still things to learn. Learning doesn't just stop because we've done a bit. Yeah. It carries on.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about, reincarnating on different planets. Can you just expand on that?
Well, I mean, I can speak for me that when I start remembering that I know I have been on other planets doing this, but I don't think that's unique to me. I think lots of people would have had incarnations in other planets, and maybe some have here, because I don't know everything. All I know is that I think some people will have been on other planets, some people will maybe only been here. What matters is what you do with what you've got. To me, it's much more important. If people talk to me and sometimes say, "Can you take me back into my past life?" I usually say I would rather not. I don't mind that. I'm not against it if people want to do it, but I think when I work with people, I try to get them to tune into the wisdom they've learned from the past soul line they are, and bring it and do it here. Not who was I?
Yeah.
You know, if it comes to you spontaneously, which it has done in the past to me and other people I know, then you look at it and say why, but not try to make it happen.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's a good thing.
Do you think that we can carry trauma from previous lifetimes into this lifetime?
If there's something that we have agreed that we need to learn from it, I think we can. I think we do have an agreement. It's not inflicted. I don't believe there's punishment like that. I believe that we might put into our pattern something that we need to learn how to handle differently, with the facility to do it, but we still have to look at it and do it. Any more than I don't believe, for example, that karma is punishment. Karma simply means, can you learn from what you've done?
Yeah.
You know, because I think sometimes I've heard people. I'll give you an extraordinary example, and I know people will have different views. I once had a workshop in London, and that somebody brought up karma and talked about the Nazis and all the people who were destroyed in the gas chambers, because it wasn't just Jewish people, gay people. And the lady at the workshop said, "Oh yes, there's punishment for what they did in the past." And I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I think things happen on this planet due to people's bad action. It is not we're not controlled. We're not in a destiny written thing. And when people do evil things, what we have to learn to do is not follow them. You know, I mean, taking Hitler isn't the only person who's done it. If all the people around him had said, "No way, we're not doing this," nothing would have happened. You've got to learn to stop following people who want to do bad things.
Yeah, take personal responsibility.
Take responsibility. Because they can't do it without support.
Yeah. And so many people, you know, I hear them say, "Oh, I can't make a difference because, like, you know, that's you know, so not true, because everybody can make a difference."
I think maybe what happens is people think of making a difference to the whole world at once.
Yeah.
But you can make a difference in your life to some people, which makes a difference to the people they know, and that grows. And people with children, you can make a difference. Don't try and think, "Oh, I've got to make everything in the world right." You can't do that alone.
Yeah.
But we should not start trying to put good in the world and helping people, because that helps the future.
It reminds me of a tale that I read about starfish being washed up on the beach, and there's a young boy who was picking the starfish up and throwing them back in the sea, and an older man came and said, "What are you doing, son? It's like hopeless. There's so many of them. You know, you can't possibly do that." He said, and he picks up another one, throws it in the sea, and said, "I made a difference to that one."
Yeah, that's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like that story. I must tell people that's lovely.
Yeah.
Because what I sometimes say to people, you know, when they get frustrated, if you light one candle in a dark place in your lifetime, you have still helped. Don't measure.
Yes.
Do what you can. Because some people think, "Oh, look, there's all this trouble going on in the world. I'm doing all this light work." Don't stop doing it. Can't make everything change, but over time, more and more, the more we help people, it builds up.
Yeah. Can you share with us some tools that we can do to make a difference?
Well, I think there's two levels of this. There's the sort of the inner light level. So I would say everyone should find a little practice every day of meditation. It doesn't have to be hours. And I would do a simple thing. The one I would mostly recommend is you sit quietly and you connect to nature. You think of your breath, breathe with the earth, thank nature for all its rhythms, go into your heart center, don't think of other beings, just trust, and send love out to yourself and to other people and to situations. And on top of that, be prepared whenever you can in life. Do a little something where you get an opportunity to do something to help somebody, not by teaching them or preaching them all the time. If you're doing healing and teaching, that's lovely. But you know, you buy a sandwich for some homeless person on the street. you are making a difference.
Yeah.
Spirituality has to have both levels.
Yeah.
But I do believe every day we should connect to nature first, rather than going up there. Because actually up there isn't up there, it's in you.
Inside.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus said the kingdom of, he didn't say kingdom because he wasn't sexist, but the kingdom of heaven is within. It isn't a place.
Yeah.
And it's another dimension. We have it inside, so go in and then send it out. And whatever you can do to help, join some groups, develop yourself, but even practical things. You know, I see homeless people on the street as I go around, and I often give them something. So I'll say, would you like something to eat?
Yeah.
You know, and you don't have to spend a fortune if you haven't got money, or just a kind word.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry that you've got this. I really hope things get better. You know?
Yeah.
And don't judge them, because some people I know say, oh yeah, but they're probably drinking and things. Yeah, don't make a judgment. You don't know what it's like to be homeless and left. So they might drink because they're in a state. Don't judge them. Please help them a bit.
I remember many years ago now, when I was working in Burnley and I was walking past McDonald's, there was a homeless man sitting there on the pavement and he looked really ill, and I got about 100 yards past him and this voice in my head said, stop and go back. And I was already late for work, so I went back and I said, are you okay? And he said, oh, no. And I said, come on inside for a brew, let's have a chat. And we went inside and it turned out he'd been released from hospital onto the streets and he was in an awful state. And I said, how did you become homeless? And he'd been in and out of children's homes all his life, and at the age of 18, sort of off.
Oh, I met a lady in Wales and I talked to her. She's not there now, so I hope she's found a way. She was in a marriage where her husband was violent and beat her. Now, she agreed with me. She said, I handled it badly. I started drinking. She's got a child. And I ended up on the street and they took my child into a home. And now I can visit my child, but because I haven't got home and because I can't get social security, I can't get my child back. She wasn't getting help to re-establish herself. And she said, I know I did it wrong, but I was desperate. I didn't know how to get out of it.
So people turn to the drugs and alcohol for the emotional...
She should be helping this person rehabilitate and get her child back.
Yeah.
You know? All right, she should have taken the child, gone to a shelter and done it, but she didn't.
Yeah.
You know? She started drinking.
But I agree with you, you know, a kind word can mean so much. When I actually offer hugs,
yes,
you know,
nice.
because they don't get that physical contact a lot of the time. You know, people are like keeping a distance and there's this fear and it's like so sad. So whatever you're doing, reach out and help the homeless. You know, they do need that help and support. So what else can people do? So we've talked about, you know, doing the inner work and sending the healing. You mentioned that there's a couple of levels. So is it doing the inner work and then doing something practical? I
think the inner work, what I would say, a daily practice, even if you can only do a few minutes of connecting to nature, bringing the light in, opening your heart and, you know, just letting nature flow through you. You're connecting to the spiritual world. You don't have to call in beings. They're there. The light beings are there. You do that to keep the connection. And it's okay to, you know, and don't be afraid to love yourself a bit. Or not, you know, not in an ego way, but you know, to say, well, I am part of nature. Thank you. I know I'm good, and then it depends on the track. I, of course, work with people who come and learn and develop, and I do workshops and teaching, and I think it's a good thing to go and join things that feel. I would say this to people. I know not everyone will agree with me. If you're going to join some kind of work with someone who's teaching, listen to what they're saying. If they tell you this is the only way to the truth, go somewhere else.
Yes.
Do not join anybody who tells you this is the only way. Or if it's a healing system, if they say this healing system, once you've learned it, you must not do any other kind. I say to all the people who come with me, you can do any other kind of spiritual work you like, as well as come here. I do not make rules, and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And you know, and if people can't do lots of that, you know, maybe just a little. Get a group of friends together or, you know, somewhere, meditate. You don't have to do lots. but mostly try to put it into life. And don't expect it to solve every problem. One of the things that distresses me in the last years is the amount of books and courses that have come out that tell you if you do this work, you will never have a problem again, and all your life will be perfect. I know people who have spent thousands of pounds and their life is still not perfect.
Yeah.
You're going to have to deal with things. We haven't got time in here, but what I try to do with people is to find that inner light, to deal with the things in a different way. But you can't make everything perfect. The earth isn't like that.
Yeah.
But I know people who spent literally thousands of pounds, just because they'd be enlightened and it would all be over, you'd be perfect. And they're so disillusioned. So it's such a shame.
Well, it's not like that, is it? We're all work in progress. No. We never stop learning.
Yeah, but they make a lot of money, these people. I mean, there's nothing wrong with money. I earn my living from this. But they make a lot of money for giving something that's not possible. And they don't care if it all falls apart. I mean, I know of I'm not going to name the practice. It was based in India, but I know from background things that a lot of people in this, it was actually run by American business people. They made millions from people. And eventually it collapsed, but they didn't care. Because they promised people things and they all went for it, spent their money, and they didn't get it. It's a great shame.
Yeah.
Goodness, nothing wrong with money. Money isn't evil. It's how you use it that matters.
How do you define money? Like as an energy?
It's an energy and it's part of our society, so let's accept it. I was criticised when I first came to Glastonbury. I didn't find it in London by some people. Why do you charge? My attitude is it's my living. But the thing is, I've never turned anyone away from my work. They see the fee. I always put a sentence on the bottom. If you can't afford this fee, just say what you can and there's a place for it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with money as long as you don't make it impossible for people and say, well, I'm sorry, if you can't pay, you can't come.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
And you do that with your retreats as well, don't you?
Yes.
The weekend courses.
And it always works.
Yeah.
I've had gifts back to me.
Yeah.
It's been lovely. But because again, there was a healer once who charged a lot of money for courses, and a friend of mine wrote to the organisation and said she couldn't afford it, and she got a letter back, not from him, from me, saying, sell something, this will change your life.
Oh, bless.
And but it made her think, I wouldn't go to that person.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask you about Ascension.
It's a fascinating word.
Oh, no. We hear, that the planet's going through an ascension cycle. Could you sort of explain?
Well, I think everything ultimately is going through cycles of ascending into higher levels, but it's also partly based on what we do. The planet will go through energy changes, and while you're on this planet, whatever lives you lead, you can be a part of it. It doesn't mean it will finish here. You might finish it somewhere else. I think it's sometimes overplayed. Ascension to me just means that we can progress into more and more awakening of our consciousness, so that we really are connected to the soul family, not just on Earth, but to everything. But I think it's not about some process where everything's going to immediately go together and be gone. I don't know of any ending. I wouldn't know how to describe an ending to anything.
Is it more like a dimensional shift? So
I think
we're like
it's
accessing different dimensions that are already here.
Yeah, and then moving. This planet will die one day, because all things physical die. It's a long way off. But that doesn't mean that we have to get it all done. But there are changes of energy, and the planet has gone through a shift. And with the work I do and other people do, you can bring that shift of consciousness in. But when people talk of ascension, to me, is some place where you go and that's it, it's all over. I don't know about that, because I don't see something that finishes. I just see that we can be on another level and not go through the same traumas, but we still got something to do.
Yeah.
It's a big creation. We can help.
Yeah. Well, with creation, it's like you're either growing or contracting.
Yeah. But I suppose ascension is going through levels, but endings, I don't know. I think of things as all possibilities,
Yeah. Can you explain about crystals? You know, I've got like a crystal here. What can we do with them, and you know, how can we work with them?
Oh, that's a lovely big question. I'll do my best with it. It's a big question, but I would start with this way and say that we live in, when you're on this earth and this universe, because there's more than one universe, but each universe has its vibration. So the planets in this universe will have a similar vibration, even if life looks different. And crystalline energy is a part of the consciousness. Now, I'm not saying the crystal is sitting there thinking, I don't want to be on this table. It's a different energy. But the crystalline planet Earth, for example, is part of the consciousness of creation that in the Earth created a vibration which allowed the chemistry of life to take consciousness in. So without the crystalline Earth, we wouldn't have living beings or chemistry beings, because our bodies are also chemistry. But chemistry isn't just chemicals, it's a vibration. So every single cell on this planet, from the simple first cells to every human being, has crystalline vibration in them. Therefore, get a little crystal when you meditate. When you hold one crystal, you're holding all the crystals of the earth.
Really?
All of them. Because they're connected, they're a family. And I wouldn't advise people to go, oh, what's it going to tell me? You know, waving my hands about, sorry, I talk with my hand all the time. Don't think, oh, what are you going to tell me? Hold the crystal with love, and say, it's beautiful to be a part of the family of the earth, crystal and nature, and really feel the love in it and let it empower you. That's where it really matters. So, you know, but at the same time, if you feel you're drawn to a crystal, doesn't have to be. I know lots of people have different views and I respect them. I don't believe in great crystal Bibles that tell you this crystal only does this. To me, the crystal you choose does what you want to do with it.
So you program it.
Yeah. Tune into it and feel the connection to the earth and nature, and therefore to the spiritual world. Don't think, oh, you know, I want a new car, so get me one.
Yeah, that's misuse of.
That to me is not the way.
Yeah. So, like, is there a way of caring for them? Because I hear people saying you should cleanse them, and
I care for my crystals simply by loving them. And when I work, I send love out, and love comes back. To me, that's enough. But if you feel happy cleansing them in different ways, do it. It's only another way of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I just love them, and that's what matters to me. But if you feel good, you want to cleanse them and things, then do it. There's no rules that you have to obey. People come to my work, and after I say, well, this is how I do it. You're welcome to do it. But if you've read, it's good to wash them in salt water. If you're happy, do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
It's only another way of loving it. You know.
Does it sort of depend on your belief system?
Well, I think this is an interesting thing. If a belief system is quite doctrinal and rigid, I think you will find that you can't work outside it. Belief should be an exploration of what works or what you feel, not something that says this is how it is. In my early days, I was a member of the National Federation of Spiritual Healers, and I was asked to do a talk. And because I did some chakra work, because I said, I want you, because I'll do this, choose a colour and bring it into your chakra, because it's not true that the heart chakra is green all the time. I was told off. They wouldn't invite me back. And I thought, fine, then I won't go back.
Yeah.
Because how limiting is that? It's always green.
Yeah.
It's not. It might have a lot of green in it, but you can bring any colour into your heart or any other chakra. With good intent, it will work.
Yeah. What about like when you're healing and thinking that protection is necessary? Well,
again, I would respect people who feel they need protection if they've got that fear for anxiety. But to me, the protection is you do everything by connecting to divine love and doing it in the name of that. That's all I think you need.
Yeah.
But what I can't say to people is that you will not in life sometimes go through things, but don't necessarily think you're going through it because you picked up something. You might be going through it because it's part of your life.
Yeah.
But if you fear, then you could pick something up. That's the problem. It's the fear. Why not? I do it when I'm going to do a workshop, when I'm teaching. I meditate at home. first, and I offer it in divine love. That's what matters. And then I think you've got the protection you need. But you can't protect yourself from everything that's going to happen in life, because that's not all it's other people that cause things, you know. But when people think of, like, getting, I don't know, demonic energies and things, I think the fear builds those images.
Yeah,
you've got to work on getting more power, more light, you know.
Yeah, it's like working with the law of attraction. Whatever you're fearing, you're actually attracting.
Well, I would go
yourself.
further. I think sometimes people fear so much because it's very indoctrinated that these entities are not real. They co-created them. It's part of their own fear. They're not come from some other world.
Yeah,
they co-created it, and I would still help them and love them and help them heal, because that's what you do. But it is divine love. But again, there's so much in the teachings of our past about demons and devils. It's there. But in ancient times, and I remember ancient times before all this, they weren't called devils. They were energies that were there, that were negative, that needed to be dealt with in life. You know.
Yeah.
It's not a demonic world. It's part of what we have to work with and put healing in and put love into and change our ways.
It's part of our own creation.
Yeah.
To give
and
us a
also
message.
to change our perception and change our ways and not want to work with those kind of things. You know?
Yeah. So if somebody is having challenges like that, what can they do?
Well, I think first of all, you can't always do it alone. I think that's a myth. But I would go in. I would start again by going into nature, feeling the divine love and asking for healing. But I'd also sometimes consider that maybe you have to talk to people who also deal with this. And first thing is, look at what might be in your own psyche that needs healing, that needs balancing, and do that, rather than try and say it's all outside of me.
Yeah, otherwise it's like giving your power away, isn't it?
Give your power away. And I'm not saying it's all self-inflicted, but we have things. Try to heal those, but get help. You know? But my view is be wary of people who say, "Oh, you've been letting some demonic being." I'm sorry, I really don't think that's what's happening. But if you start to believe it, it's going to feel like it.
Yeah.
And then I've had in my life, when I was younger, I was at the College of Psychic Studies, and on a few occasions I was asked to go out with a couple of people and deal with poltergeist activity. It's very rare, but I've seen it. It was nearly always an adolescent going through huge changes who had a high psychic gift, and often in families of highly doctrinized religious belief, and they were rebelling. But their rebellion, they could throw things around with their mind. And as soon as we healed that part of them, it stopped.
Oh, interesting.
It wasn't spirit doing it.
Yeah.
But sometimes the problem was they were in a household, a family. I'm not condemning those families, but their teaching was very doctrinal, and this is a sin.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a rare gift, but if people have it and they get frustrated, the furniture, things flying around because they're trying to protest. And we dealt with it by healing that and encouraging them to grow, and then, you know, even move away from that doctrine and grow into their own being. Not to hate their parents, but to talk to them, but not take it all in. And it usually worked quite well. It is very rare. I've only seen it 3 or 4 times in my whole life.
Interesting.
I don't think it happens very often, and I don't think we want it to happen.
Yeah. Well, one of the other gifts that that I've seen you doing is the sound. Do you want to just explain about how that works?
Well, it was part of my thing to come here. I've known it for a long time, but sound is in everything. Sound and light are not separate. In physical terms, in scientific terms, you know, sound travels slower than light. But that's a scientific thing of one level of it. There's a wonderful saying, even in the Christian thing, in the beginning was the Word.
Yeah.
Sound is part of creation. The body vibrates, the energy, even, you know, we now know from quantum physics, particles are also waves. They're not really as solid as we think. So what we are beautiful beings of light and sound. And therefore, bodies have sound, consciousness has sound, the spiritual world. And so one of my manifesting gifts to bring was that I can I've done it for many years now. It's changing now, actually, for me, but is that on certain occasions, and I only do it sometimes, I can work with people, get them to start working with their energy, send out love, healing to each other, and then I hold a crystal, so I'm holding the whole crystal earth, to bring that into my own body as a almost electromagnetic field, and then they can hear the sounds of the spirit world and their own healing. And the reason I sometimes do it is because for the people it works for, it opens up their mind to really knowing it's real, and to feel the love. And I'm only doing it to help those people, because I did it at the PLG and someone asked me about skeptics and things, and my answer to that, because when I was younger I wanted to prove it to the whole world, I gave up because you can't. My answer to that is, my feeling is, I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm not here to change anybody if they don't want to be. I only want to reach the people who feel it.
Yeah.
And I do it only occasionally. I must make that point. Most of my workshops, I don't keep manifesting.
Yeah.
I do it occasionally and say, come along and experience it. And I don't do it that often. And in fact, because my other gift is perfumed oil, which comes to my hands, I've been advised by the elders, because the sound work is, it takes a lot of energy, and I've got huge recordings now. I'm using them in my work. I'm going to use them in my workshops. I've got sounds from Egypt, from the Greece at played, from Avery, the groups, and I'm going to use them because, for the sake of my own body, because I'm 71 now, I will still carry on with the blessing of the source for the oil, but there'll come a point where quite soon I will not manifest any more sound. But I've got a huge library of sounds, and I'm going to put them in my work and let people then start to work with them themselves, and in the future teach other people. I want them to be out there.
And when you were doing this the other night, on Wednesday night, it's like, it sounds otherworldly, the music that is coming out is just exquisite.
I think it's only otherworldly because everyone hears it, but they feel it at a conscious level. But I often say this when I'm talking, if I had a time machine and could take you back 2,000 or 3,000 years, more people would have heard that than they do now, because we've shut it away, and I'm sowing seeds where everybody will be able to tune into it. But a lot of people also say, although it's otherworldly, some part of them sort of recognises it.
Yeah.
They feel it, because it's in them already. It's already there. All I'm doing is saying, look, this is what you are.
Yeah.
A beautiful light and sound, everybody is. And all right, you've got problems, you've got things you've done wrong. We've all done it as human beings or other beings. So don't condemn yourself, grow through it, learn.
So, if everything's sound vibration, what impact does music that's in Discord have on us?
Well, again, I suppose music, because I love music and I play music, and I love music right across the board, from rock to opera, I love it. But I think the thing with music is, listen to the music that feels loving. That's it. If it doesn't feel comfortable with you, don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Because you might not be ready to listen to it. I think the discord is more what's going on between you. I mean, of course there are sounds in the world that are unpleasant, that we don't like them. Sometimes, there's military bases around here, and sometimes the jets where I live flow by. I don't like it. But instead of thinking, oh, that's damaging me, I think, it's there, I love you, but I'm not going to let you get in.
Yeah.
I'm not going to send you any bad things. I don't want it. I wish you'd go away. One day I hope you will, because we don't want all these jets flying around, practicing for war. But I think, no, it's not going to disturb me. I'm going to let it go.
That's a really good way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
And you can apply that to anything as well, can't you?
You can. Yeah. I understand it's hard sometimes, but when it comes to music, listen to the music that makes you happy. Don't listen to things that you don't like. What's the point?
Just going back to reincarnation, is there a way that we can sort of break that reincarnation cycle?
I don't think you should attempt to break it. I think you should see it as part of the process that eventually brings you into a space. I mean, I don't mean this in an egotistical way. My family, I've reached a point where I don't have to.
Yeah, it's a choice.
I choose to do it because it's a family and you come to help. And lots of people are doing that. So even when you get to that point where you don't, you might choose not to and just work from another world, but you might say, I think I will go and help. You have total free choice that no one will make you do anything. You won't be, it's not like you have to go back. People seem to think it's inflicted. You will have a choice. But I will tell you, most people, once you're not here and you've gone through your transition, you're dying and your transition, and you know other things, the going back won't seem like a big problem because you love your family. Even though you know it's not going to be all easy, you still love your family. But there is choice.
Yeah. And can you choose which family you're reincarnated into?
You can. My memory of choosing is that you, in my case, choosing the sort of vibration and the thing, especially with the different views, that was the choice, not the names and addresses.
Yeah, so a bit more of the experience.
And of course, people say, what about people who get abused? Well, the point is this. I don't think you choose to be abused. I think that we have to accept that some people go off the rails. I'm not excusing them. They go off the rails even though they've got children. They get distorted and then they get abusive, and that's not ordained. I don't believe that's ordained. People who go off the rails and do nasty things, something really bad has happened to them. It's wrong, it's terrible, especially when they abuse children. But and I know people will disagree. I don't believe you say, I need to go back and be abused.
Yeah.
We have to accept that this Earth and other planets, there's a certain amount of randomness that happens. It may be cruel and it's horrible, but I don't have a cure for it. But I think we also need to look at these things, like abusive parents who abuse their children sexually, for example. We've got to look at how we deal with those people, because my view would be this: you can't excuse it. If they are caught, you can't just let them go around society. But what I don't think is there's much good just throwing them in a prison where you've got to put them in a place where they can't get out, but you've got to also try to help them.
Yeah.
Even if you can't ever let them go, for the sake of where they go after this life, try to help them understand why. But what mostly happens is they get thrown in prisons where they get beaten up and they get abused themselves.
Yeah.
And I know that happens because I know people who have worked in those areas. Nothing is done to help them. But they can't be left to be out there abusing people.
Exactly.
But, I don't have an answer as to why that's happening. I really wish I did. But what we have to do is protect the people and get them out of that abuse.
Yeah.
But the idea that we choose to be abused in some incarnation way, I don't believe that to be true. And it's very sad for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't think everyone starts out, from their birth, growing up to, I'm going to abuse children when I'm older. Something happens to those people that's really, really bad.
Yes.
And it's very sad.
It is very, very sad. I want to ask you about the Grail. I was looking at your website, and what is the Grail?
Yeah. Well, I call my sort of workshops over here Awakening the Grail Within, because the Grail was originally the journey within, across the landscape of your mind, dealing with all the difficulties and to find that light within that shines. And the stories of the Knights of the Round Table, which was written later, is a mythological way of representing it, because the knights go out, they come up obstacles, but it's an inner journey, obstacles and beauty and all these things, and finding your way to that light within. It's not an object in the sense of like the cup. The cup, to me, is the womb of life. It's the creation. It's where things are created. So I think that to me the Grail is an inner journey, and finding the magic within. And part of my work is to try and bring people to practice real alchemy, which is not some secret society thing that everybody shuts away, like the Freemasons and all that. It's everybody has got alchemy in them, and I bring people into that as well. It's not doing magic all the time, it's transformation. So I think the Grail is the inner journey, and facing and being honest about the things that are not easy, and that you think I should really, got to kind of work on changing this perception. That's why these stories, myths are quite good stories, they help you understand, but they're not literal always, because that's what people have written, because the Grail stories go long way back before all these Knights of the Round Table. The Round Table is the circle of eternity. And, all the ancient people, shamanic practices, tribal, they all had these same things of working with nature and finding what's within you.
So these myths and legends like King Arthur, and these more like archetypes.
Yeah, archetypes and ways of trying to explain things. They're not wrong, they're wonderful stories, I love them. But I think we've got to go into the deeper level of them, not take them utterly literally all the time. Because it is a journey of the mind and on the earth of finding out who you are and what you are actually can do, what you're capable of.
Yeah,
it's very beautiful.
What do you think the purpose of life is?
To grow, to learn, to expand, to have adventures, to find the ultimate light you are. And then, as we've said earlier, even if you find it and become it, what can you still do to help other people who are still growing? You don't sit on a cloud playing your harp for eternity. That would be boring. How bored would you get?
I also read on your website that you're able to bilocate.
Well, I should rephrase it. I'm going to rewrite it because you write it without thinking sometimes. I'm going to rewrite some of this. It has happened to me, but only on very special occasions. I can't just do it at just any moment I like to. It happened to me, most memorable thing for me, I was in Switzerland and doing a big festival there, it's Mind Body Spirit Festival. And a man came to me, very, very sick, very ill, heart problems. It was an individual session, he'd seen me in a group. And I said, okay, I'm going to give you some healing. And I said to him, and I didn't think of bilocating, I said to him, I feel that you're going to get some good here, but obviously I want you to feed it. And he was come back and tell me, because I was there for a few days. I said, so now go, he couldn't even walk without pain. I said, be careful. If you get pain, look after yourself. Go and have a walk. I'll be with you. He came back later and he said, I had no pain, and thank you for walking with me. And I didn't even know. But he said, it's so nice of you to have left your work for a moment and walked around with me. So I was there with him.
Oh.
So it happened, but I can't sit down and bilocate myself. That I can't do.
Yeah, and you weren't conscious that you were.
I wasn't on that occasion. I've been conscious once or twice of being with people when I've been helping from a distance, but I've not made a big thing of it. I've not said, did you see me? I've just let it be. But I can't sit down and say, I'm going to bilocate now.
Yeah.
You can't, nice, I could go shopping and stay at home. But no, it's happened to me. But I think I might reword it because it might be misleading people. I don't want people to think I can just do it at will. That's not true. Yeah.
We're in Glastonbury, and there's a big goddess culture down here. What do you make of that?
Well, I think the thing is that always the feminine was important, and I bring it into my work, and I get people to work with their male and female energy. I happen to be in a man's body, but so what? I mean, I've got feminine energy. The point is, we need to get it back. Again, I would go back and I would say history has written it out. I remember these times. At the time of Jesus and indeed other Buddha, there were equally women in these groups. History writes them out. They don't want them because it was a patriarchal system. I think one of the most lovely things I heard was, I think was it last year when the Dalai Lama was at the Glastonbury Festival. He was interviewed on television and said, and I saw the interview, he said, I would not be at all worried if the next Dalai Lama was a woman. I thought, good for you. Because, it's a beautiful Buddhism, Christianity's got beautiful energy in it, but it's run by men all the time, and that's not natural.
Yeah.
Got women working with me who teach as well. But the point is, you can be a man teaching as long as you acknowledge, and a woman teaching. So I think the goddess movement, as long as its aim is to get the feminine energy back on an equal level, it's wonderful. Yeah. It should be there.
Yeah.
And I think it's so amazing because it's still too patriarchal.
Yeah. And individually, I see it's just balancing the male and female energy within us.
Exactly. Because it's beautiful. When I first started working and doing that, It's changed now, but I noticed a lot of men got wary because they thought I was talking about their sexuality.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. I don't care what the people, whatever your sexuality is, it's fine with me. As long as you're grown up, not hurting people, I don't mind because it's part of nature. But they thought it was, oh, I might be bringing out the feminine. Does that mean I'm not a man?
Yeah.
They thought it was sexuality rather than the beautiful balance.
Yeah.
But once they understood it, it was okay. Yeah. But I think it's changed now because that stigma has gone. When I grew up, even when I wore colourful clothes, I brought up in East London and I couldn't buy colourful clothes to the hippie area, but before that I found like a separate costume here. I bought some lacy shirts. Men shouted abuse at me in the street.
Really?
Yeah, because those men in that, they were lovely people really, but that's not a real man. You don't dress like that. And of course, homosexuality was illegal and you were a pervert and you were bad. And they shouted at me because I had a lacy shirt on. And it was so sad.
Yeah.
It got quite fearful. I even stopped wearing them for a bit because it felt like very aggressive. No one ever hit me, but it felt like they might. But then when the 60s came along, it all changed, so I didn't care anymore. It was wonderful, and I've never changed since. I mean, this is quite conservative for me, you know. I just threw something on, but I like colourful clothes, but it doesn't matter anymore. That's the nice thing. Yeah. Except in the big industries. You go to London, all the office workers have to dress in black and grey, but one day they won't.
No.
It'd be lovely.
Yeah. You've got some workshops coming up, haven't you, Tareth? I had a look and...
Yeah, well, my Awakening of the Grail work, which I do 4 times a year in Glastonbury, but I also do it 3 times in Belgium and twice in Denmark. And the dates are on my website, so you can just do it. They're on there now because I've been lazy, but they are on there. They're held in Glastonbury. They're 1 day, Saturdays, and again, it's by Awakening the Grail. But especially now in the next year, I'm going to be doing some deep work with all these sounds that I've manifested, like from the Giza and the different frequencies that work with the subtle DNA, that work with ancestry. We're going to do some powerful work.
We manifested some sound in here. We're sitting in a
This is really helping.
And nature is like beating down on the roof.
So I'm going to do, this is going to be the future, those sounds. And ultimately, there'll come a time, not just with me doing it, but other people, where people are ready, they can take some of those sounds and use them and work with some other people because I want to spread it out. But it's deep, powerful work. But it's also very loving because we always, in those days, and I've got a winter gathering coming up, December gathering, we always do lots of lovely healing for each other, but we send out light into the world. So it's not just learning, it's being together, recognising that even if we haven't met before, we know each other. Yeah. And in December, the 7th, 8th and 9th, 3 days in Glastonbury. Again, part of that will be working with healing. I'm going to work with some shamanic rhythms and breath work and sounds from sacred sites. But also, we get together and we do lovely energy work for each other and sending it out. And we will, on Friday, I'm doing the blessings from the source where the oil might manifest. But I say might because I never demand manifestation. Yeah. It happens most of the time when I ask for it because I'm not greedy. I don't ask for it all the time. And on Saturday night is music night. Myself and Martin, who's the guitar player, that I'm going to do a concert of my songs. Wonderful. And my songs are poetry songs and about, but it's fun.
Yeah,
so
I can vouch for that because I've attended it myself and it's wonderful.
It's a bit of it. We do deep work, but we laugh, we sing. We do joyful stuff and we heal each other, we send healing out. It's just a lovely time to come to the end of the year, all before the Christmas stuff starts and we can go home and enjoy it.
What I love about you, Tareth, is that, you know, you've got these beautiful, extraordinary gifts that you're without ego and you are really real and you have a laugh and you swear and
absolutely. Yeah, the thing is, I knew this would prove if I came, but when you're here, you still have to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, and I dealt with it by being clear all the time. Don't get me wrong, the human part of me, when I was first offered this, you know, I have all this, but I thought, no, I get it all, but the cost is too much because I'm not, you know, when people say to me, I went, you know, you go to these gurus who do something, and all you do is see them from a distance, they never speak to you, they never do anything. I'm sorry, that's not the future. Yeah. It's not how it should be. Yeah. The real meaning of the guru is simply a teacher. Yeah. That's all it really means. And teaching is co-teaching and co-creating with the people you're working with, you want those people to be doing what you do.
Yes.
You don't want them to be deaf. When I first manifested oil in public, actually in the spiritualist church in London, they asked me to do it, which is odd because they're quite close to that normally. Although I do one in Bainton occasionally, there are lovely people there. Several people need to be got on their knees. And it showed me that it's already in there. So I just said, stand up, come enjoy it. Don't get on your knees. And they loved it because they didn't have to. It was almost like, oh, we're better. And I thought, isn't it interesting? There's a little programming in people.
Yeah.
And it's not, shouldn't be like that.
No.
You know?
No, I must admit, like when I was brought up in the Catholic religion, and I was in the Amazon rainforest actually, and the Shipibo tribe, and I had a big healing, and I realised that the root cause of my unworthiness belief had come from Catholicism. When you say, Lord, I am not worthy to receive you, but only say the word, and I shall be healed. And when you hear that over and over and over again,
it's so sad because it's totally contrary to Jesus.
It is.
It's the opposite.
It is.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
Because he didn't teach that.
No.
At all.
And he didn't say, I'm the crucifixion. Every church you go into, there's an image of the crucifixion.
No.
He said, I am the resurrection.
Absolutely. And resurrection, I've got a song which I wrote. It's called Rise from the Breath of the Dead. Resurrection is when old ideas and concepts die and new things come. And when the trees die and come back. It's not sacrificing people in order for everyone to be saved. That's not what it means. Sometimes we have to let old things die in order for new things to happen. And I think that's what resurrection really means. And then it's beautiful. It's not easy, but it's still beautiful. I agree. I mean, even in the church, why don't they just have pictures of Jesus glowing with light?
Exactly.
Instead of hanging on a cross.
I know. You've got to look at these things and you've got to think, does this make me feel good when I'm looking at it? Because if it's not, it's lowering vibration, and that's not a good thing.
And don't get me wrong, I respect those people's belief if that's what they want. And I have known people who follow the church in both Christian, Catholic, and lovely people. But I just can't get into that doctrine of this punishment and this suffering in that way, which I know Jesus didn't want. He wanted people to find the light within them and shine out there and do good in the world.
And also the teachings on heaven and hell as well, and sin. What's your take on sin?
Well, I mean, in the church sense, I think, like not just our churches, but in lots of beliefs, hell, you have to be punished. You have to hell because you've got to scare people. But sin is just going against what's good, what's moral and good. I don't mean simple mistakes we make, but sin is doing something that's harmful and hurtful in a way that has no real reason. You know, and it's like we talked of abuse and things. But when I was at school, sin was, almost thinking something bad once, or it's like you couldn't actually live without sinning in that philosophy. I hope it's not like that now, but almost any little thing you might have done wrong was a sin. You had to really suffer for it. But that's
do your penance.
Do your penance. But I think that's over the top. I think most people know what is bad and what is not bad. And making a mistake here and there is human. You make a mistake, you do your best to put it right. You don't have to curse yourself with sin and hell, because that is so sad. It really is sad that people must have suffered that, especially in times when everything was so indoctrinated. It must be a fear in people's minds. So, and it's a shame to have that much fear. I don't want people to be that fearful. There's enough fearful things around without inventing a few more.
How can people get hold of you if they're interested in checking work?
Well, probably the best way to go on the website. There is an email, which is the best way, but there is a phone number. You can leave messages, but I'd advise maybe going on the email. At the moment, it's got my dates for the Grail days and things, and the winter gathering. But as I do, I don't do lots and lots of things, but I like that work. But I do little groups at home sometimes, and as I do them, the dates they'll be on the website. What they can do is get in touch. If they want to come to the winter gathering and things, they just get in touch. It's open to everybody. There's no rules. As I say, if you can't afford the fee, just say so. And then I can put you on my mailing list, and then you'll get to know.
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
And the website is www.tareth.co.uk.
It is very simple.
And Tareth is Tareth.
It is.
Tareth.
I actually was given that name just during my awakening as a child. I was given that name, and when I was older, I thought I didn't change it out of ego because some people didn't like it. I changed it because it felt like me.
Yeah.
It's the energy name for me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't put me above anyone. I just feel, oh, I'm at home now.
Yeah. You just have the one name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except on my passport is Tareth. I'm going to get it changed because of that. But on all the forms I do online, I have to be Tareth, so I'm double.
Double Tareth.
There's two of me. That's my location. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for
my
coming today and sharing your wisdom and having a chat and
It's been
a tea.
Lovely. I've loved it. So thank you so much, too.
Yeah. And, I do recommend checking Tareth's work out. Talk about heart-based,
It is.
It really is heart-based work, and it is divine work today. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.